There is absolutely no way that it will fit. It interferes with everything up forward. And we're just a wee bit short. Howdy y'all, welcome back to Maverick Mods. This week I'm going to finish up the transmission tunnel. For anybody new to the channel, there's a link in one of these corners for the previous episode where I started working on modifications to the existing transmission tunnel on the 71 Firebird. But like I said, this week we'll finish it up. After that, I'm going to modify and or fabricate a crossmember for the transmission. We're going to find out about that. And I'll finish up today by getting the torque arm modified to fit the car. So, stay tuned. Well, I'm still working on the transmission tunnel. I figured I'd start working my way back. Only real difference here is I'm still overlapped versus the new tunnel top half and the old tunnel side that comes up, maybe about ½ inch or so. I've got some sheet metal screws just pulling the two pieces together as far back as I can go, and then there's not enough room back here, but I can work with that back here. What I'm going to do here is same technique I've been using. I'm going to pull this sheet metal screw out. I'm going to start on my line here. I'm just going to slice through both pieces and come back to the second sheet metal screw, and then use my clamps to pull everything together. All right, we'll do a little bit of cleanup here. All right, a little bit of hammer work just to straighten this. Okay, that's good there. Actually, it'll be in just a little bit. Yeah, that's good there. That's good there. Alright, so I'm going to tack this part, and then I'm going to clamp this afterwards. And now I'm going to use my little clamps to pull these pieces together, and I'm going to work my way down and just use the clamps, pull them together, and then tack the spots down here. It's one of the nice things about having a big opening here. I can get my hand in there. There we go. Now I'm going to pull this out and keep working my way down. Okay, same thing, it reaches through. And I think I can get another one back here. So what I've got here is I can tack in between my clamps, and then when the tacks are in, pull the clamps out and keep working my way down. Transmission tunnel stitch welding is complete all the way back up to this point on the passenger side. Same thing on the driver's side. I've got it run up to this point right here. Now what I need to do is I need to match the upper tunnel part with the existing tunnel right back here, because I've got a shape difference. So my plan is I'm going to match the edges just like I did before. I'm going to start with welding the center, and then I've already got some cuts made on the side, on both sides over here. I'm going to extend these cuts out back to about probably another 2 inches on either side, and then I'm just going to work the top part of this existing tunnel up to match this curve and this shape, and that should separate as I work it. It should separate here, and then I'll just come back in with a couple of extra pieces, just sheet metal pieces, to fill in the gap. That should minimize the amount of cuts and the amount of gap filling that I need to do only to either side. Let's give that a try. I've got my initial cut made here. I've got my surface evened out. Actually, I can go a little bit more down here. So I can start by welding from about here to about right there. Now I'll go underneath, and on each side, just start working that metal up. As it comes up, I didn't cut here on purpose because I didn't want to make the gap too wide. So as I work each side up, then I'll shave a little bit at a time. Let me get a couple more slices here so that metal can keep coming up. I got this side to come up, but this side there's just a little bit too much curve in that metal. I just can't get it to stretch that far. I'm gonna have to make it one more cut, probably about right here, and come back to about right there to get that to actually make that radius. At exactly 4:47 yesterday afternoon, I just happened to notice, because I looked at the clock and that stuck in my head, I ran out of shielding gas for the welder right here. I've got about, I don't know, what's that, about a ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch left to do on the transmission tunnel. So let's get that welded up to finish this up. Done. Let's take a quick look. I've got all my cuts and seams up forward, blending everything. Along the side we've already looked at. You saw me do a little bit on the side here, and what I talked about before about blending in the rear portion of the tunnels. So I had a few little cuts here just to help blend there. This, oh, yep, okay, it's not bad. This is the little sheet metal plate that I cut to fit for the pie cut there. Blended the corner here. Same thing on that side. Obviously, still a lot of cleanup on the welds, a lot of grinding, still got to go underneath. I'm sure there's some pinholes. I'm not going to address those until I get the car back on the rotisserie and I can work underneath semi-comfortably. But for now, I can call the transmission tunnel as done as it's going to be for a while. Next, let's move on to transmission mount. I know sometimes it seems like I jump around from project to project, or mini project and mini project, and there doesn't necessarily seem to be any rhyme or reason to what I'm doing and why I'm doing what I'm doing when I'm doing it. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes I do what strikes my fancy that day, and that, believe it or not, helps me kind of keep focused, because I don't burn out on a project that, or part of the project that takes a long time and it's grinding. Although sometimes there is actually a method to my madness, even though it doesn't look like it. And a great example, why did I do the transmission tunnel now? And the reason for that is the transmission tunnel helped me finalize the location for the engine transmission and get everything set where it needed to sit. And I needed to make the room to be able to get the transmission set where it needs to set. Does that make sense? So the next step, now that that's there, the tunnel is done, I need to make a transmission crossmember. The factory one, as it is now, there's just no way. I might actually be able to make it work. We're going to give it a try. So once the crossmember's in, engine transmission are permanently mounted. Well, they're coming back out, but they're in their final location. Then I can start working on the torque arm. Once the torque arm location is done, then I can finalize all of the fab work for the brackets, the trailing arms, the panhard bar, everything necessary for the rear end. So let's take a look at the crossmember. My original intent on the transmission crossmember was, I was thinking I was going to have to fabricate one to make everything fit, or, you know, in lieu of that, buy one that's been designed to fit this transmission in this car. However, I did a little investigating with the factory crossmember. Now, in its normal position, which is actually 180 degrees from where I've got it placed now, there is absolutely no way that it will fit. It interferes with everything up forward. It's just, there's too many differences between the old automatic transmission and this 6-speed. However, I took the crossmember and turned it 180 degrees and just slid it up in here. I'm really close on my mounting holes there. I'm really close to my mounting holes there. And what's causing the interference is the torque arm mount, or the torque arm bushing right here. And specifically, it's one little corner right there, and I might be able to just shave a little bit of that mount off to make this actually fit. So I'm going to give that a try. I've got to pull this off anyway to change the bushing, so I'm going to do that and just see how this thing fits. If I can make it fit, what I will have to do, of course, is cut off the original transmission mount tab here, and I'll have to fabricate a tab going forward for the transmission mount here. But that, by using the factory crossmember, it kind of solves one of the problems I was dealing with anyway, and that is exhaust pipe clearance right up in this area. So let's give this a try. I'll pull that bushing out, mount the crossmember up, and see where we're at. Alright, so I've got my pieces fabbed up for the tab for the transmission mount itself. And the bottom plate here, so I've got some side reinforcement pieces. One here, one here. I'm going to go ahead and tack these in, do a test fit, and then if everything looks good, then I'll weld them up. Okay, that's as high as it'll go. The one thing about this new crossmember is it's still just a little bit warm from the welding, but I don't know if you can see this or not. There's the new tab, but in order to get this in, I actually have to put the transmission mount there we go, on the crossmember, like so, and then slide everything up in from here. So I think I go in here. I think I gotta go this way. Hoping this works. Because if it doesn't, I just did a lot of work for nothing. Oh, well, that would help. Nincompoops, she's upside down. There we go. Might fit better this time. There we go. Slides right in. Okay. Now, before I go too all fired crazy, I'll just start the bolts on the mount. I'll start the bolts on the mount. I didn't repeat myself. It didn't start the first time. There's one. Wow, that went easier than I thought. That's not supposed to happen that way. It's supposed to be a lot harder than that. All right. Third time's a charm. All right. I don't know why I didn't remember this, but if you don't have a shouldered nut and you're in a tight confine, you take a short socket, take one nut, drop it in, and then take another one, stick it right on top. And in theory, I should be able to just stick this right on the head of the bolt. Which one? Oh, that one. Next one. Okay. And just stick it right on there. Spin it on. There we go. Okay. I got one over here that's iffy, so I'm going to try that one on this one also. Back under the car with the torque arm temporarily installed. Following it forward, and we're just a wee bit short, which I knew. I figured it would be about 4 inches. Let's take a quick measurement and see. I need to lengthen this by 5.5 inches. So let's pull it out and start cutting. With the torque arm on the, well, it's not really a bench, but on the stand here, we got to figure out now where's a good place to lengthen this. And the only thing to really consider is I want to keep the factory mounting locations back here, so I don't want to mess with anything back here. And we do have some kind of curves to deal with here and a little bit of a curve here, so I'm going to leave all that intact. I need to keep the front tab where it's supposed to be. It might be easiest to just lengthen this part right here, or I could cut it right here and just extend out that way. And frankly, I'm kind of thinking if I were to cut it to about right here, add 5 inches to this, that might actually be the absolute easiest way to do that. Let me sit on that and stare at it for a while, see if that's the right way to go, and if it is, then I'll start cutting. I got the front part of my torque arm separated where I'm going to add my piece right here. I've run everything through the sandblaster just to clean everything up. There was, I mean, seriously thick amount of undercoating on this. That is, I mean, it was amazing. Took a while to get off. Got everything lined up here. So now I'm going to take and I'm going to make my template. Yeah. So the idea is my first piece is actually going to lay inside of the channels here, come flat straight across, and then merge back here. Okay, I'm going to cut a piece of metal and see how well that fits. Got everything clamped into place. My forward piece, just a straight edge to make sure everything is straight. This is clamped down. Everything is measured out, the 5 inches that I need. And I've got my first backing plate cut. And the idea is I'm going to want it to actually drop down into this channel so that I can weld it. But it's not doing it up here, it's raising up high. And that's because it's kind of on this little ridge right here. So I'm going to mark those. I'm going to cut those ridges out to allow that to drop back down. Alright, so I got my part trimmed up, fit, got it laid in place here. I'm going to tack it a couple of spots, then we're going to test fit everything and make sure it's good before I go all fired crazy. You need to tap these ends down just a little bit. That'll do it. I just did a test fit of the torque arm to measure length, clearances, everything looks good. Basically the way I did it was I stuck the bushing on the end, slid the bushing into the bushing holder, and just checked my rear mounting point at the rear end. Everything looks good. In fact, I'm probably about 1/4 inch short, but that's better than being 1/2 inch too long. So next up, I'll work on fabricating this structure here. And I'm probably just going to do this one piece at a time, use thin strips and work my way around, because I don't have anything where I can replicate that shape easily. So first thing I gotta do is figure out how to get that bushing off, and then I'll start working on this side. Got my first weld done and ground down. As you can see, basically I just filled in the center to even at that. Next up, I'll start building a piece up on each side, so we'll do that next. Well, I finished up getting the top part done. And that basically, like I said, you saw the first piece, and all I did was I just made successive pieces to mirror the shape there. Now I've got to flip it over, weld the back, and clean it up a little bit. It should be ready for a final test fit. I got a coat of primer on the, well, it's not really a repaired spot, on the modified spot. So that's what she looks like. I'm going to get this thing mounted, and we'll take a quick look at it in the car. We're under the car for a final time. Well, obviously not the final time, but we're under the car again just to check and verify installation of the torque arm. So we're in the bushing, everything's tight, everything's good. Follow it down. Obviously we're attached at the rear end. That's good. Let's check clearances. I've got good clearance all the way back. I'll flip you around. Clearance there. Although it looks like it's a little tight right there, I've got good clearance here as well, considering that the amount of travel right in this spot right here probably is going to be no more than about, if it's 1/4 inch, I'd be shocked. So one last thing I'm going to do is, although this is not fitted yet because we haven't shortened it yet, but we'll just stick the drive shaft in just to show that there is actually drive shaft clearance. Okay, so drive shaft is in forward. I got, oh, tons of room up there. This drive shaft is actually the Firebird drive shaft because we can't use the Z28 drive shaft. It's too short. It's damaged from the wreck and it's aluminum. So it'd be kind of hard to lengthen that. So in this case, so that's fully forward there. You know, I'm close, but it just isn't there. We'll have to shorten this drive shaft. Looks like somewhere around an inch or so. So we're looking good. Torque arm is installed. Next, I'm gonna start on all the rear end components. That's gonna wrap things up for this week, folks. Got the transmission tunnel finished. Got the transmission crossmember finished, installed. Got the torque arm finished. Next, I can finalize the rear suspension setup, which I previously just mocked up. For those who have no idea what I'm talking about there will be, hopefully I can get 2-in-1 video. There will be a link up here for mocking up the rear end, but starting next episode, I'll actually fabricate some trailing arms, fabricate a lot of mounts on the rear end, fabricate a panhard bar, and get the fabrication done for the coilovers. So, don't want to miss that. Certainly appreciate everybody watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. It certainly does help me out. Everybody, have a great day.